Alrighty y'all, it's your boy Ben here, and we're taking a look at the final meta report of the season. That's right, it is coming to a close this coming Thursday, so go ahead and use this deck list that we're about to be going over to get those last minute win-ins in ranked. Alright y'all, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on in. So our first deck is going to look like this. We have Giratina, Magnezone, and Tapu Lele, in which you're only running a Psychic Energy. This was one of the deck lists that really came out on top over the weekend, and it's really creeping up again because Magnezone, as it always has been, is a very good mon. You have your Giratina to ramp up energy and also speed up since you're running only Psychic. You have Tapu Lele, who only needs 1 energy to deal anywhere between 20 to 80 worth of damage depending on how much energy your opponent is playing. And then you have Magnezone here. What's really nice is that you're able to soften up those in the back for a Cyrus if need be, and then you can power away with a 110, having your opponent going through 2 of these or like 1 of these and 1 of these, and then finishing off with a Giratina EX. Just puts a lot of damage out on the board and allows you to just deal really big damage turn after turn without having to worry about giving up too many points, right? Like if they have to go through 3 Pokemon here, essentially earning 4 points in the way that you play this out. And what's really nice about having Magnezone, as always, is because Magneton here is allowing you to generate that energy, so that way you don't have to worry about supplying electric and being consistent with building up actually with just building up your Giratina here. And the looks of it, again, you kind of have your run of your trainer cards, a Cyrus, a Guzma, a Sabrina, a Pokemon Center Lady. We're really starting to see Guzma taking the place of Red here because Guzma can impact those non-EXs with a cape and then taking away those 20, whereas Red wouldn't be able to touch things like that. So that's we're seeing that across, and that's really cool here. Up next, we have the Miroscar Decidueye EXX still having another strong showing over the weekend, again seeing a 2-1-2-1-1-1 ratio here, and really just building up the most sustain that you have. So you have 2 Ericas, 1 Lily, 2 Leaf Capes. It's interesting to see that there's a red card here. Again, your opponent could be building up whatever that's in the back. I kind of like, I just mentioned Guzma in the last one. I kind of like Guzma in the slot here. If you're looking for another item card, I think a Guzma actually would fit really well here because, again, reaching breakpoints for this 130 from your Miroscar or your 60 into non-EXs, or the Pierce the Pain action that you can get from them either retreating out from being attacked by Miroscar, or even this Lunala pack for the Rowlet that allows you to skill dive and attack 10 to any Pokemon. And so making sure that like your breakpoints are your breakpoints is really big here, and being able to do that with a Guzma is a kind of nice, especially getting rid of things when you know that you have to evolve and they put a poison barb up, and like, the Decidueye EX can't evolve anymore, and like those things are really annoying. But other than that, it is a lot of health to get through. This Miroscar can turn into 170. The Decidueye EX can turn into 200. And then you have Ericas and Lilies on top of both of these being stage 2 mons is really troublesome for your opponent to have to go through. And then we also have this build here. We're getting, again, this strong pairing of Tapu Lele and Giratina EX, because Tapu Lele only needs 1 energy to attack, so you can then feed all of the psychic energy that you need to Giratina EX. And this is such a great deck for building up and going into ranked as well, because you're softening things up with Tapu Lele, you're softening things up with Greninja. Greninja does not need to attack. Greninja is literally only here to soften up mons that do not have energy on them. Some folks like to try to juke the Tapu Lele through that, and then you can just always reset that with this Greninja, and then having them Water Shuriken, a fresh brand new mon, a mon that just got placed out on either onto the bench or onto the active, to then give them the breakpoint for Giratina in the same turn is what's really clutch here with this variation of the Tapu Lele Giratina. because you're essentially attacking for 150 in a turn, and like that's really good, especially if folks are trying to run giant cape and you're just kind of like, no, we don't play that here. So I really do like this water shuriken ability matching up with Giratina, just to reach out just those extra bigger EXs that are like 140 or 150. You're still able to clear them that same turn with a little aid from your Watermon. And then we continue along, and Gallade EX Rampardos made some splashes last week and has continued that same stride this week, and it's really good here. I mean, if we look at some of these, right? This requires 4 energy attack, this requires 2 and 2, but this requires 3. Again, Giratina requires 4. So when you have Gallade here, Gallade on the clapback here, right? Like, you lead with Rampardos, that's attacking for 130, so your Giratina is down to 20. They can't attack unless they have the giant cape. And let's say they clear out your Rampardos on the backswing because you took out their Tapu Lele. They come up with their their Greninja, they attack you with the Rampardos, you're down to 130, and Giratina takes it out. Gallade takes it out. Even without that minus 20 damage, that 4 energy is an additional 80 damage that you're doing. So Gallade EX, with seeing the Giratinas all over the place, really takes a good amount from there, and then you are constantly softening up your opponents because of 130. If that's not already being knocked out, once you get hit with it, it's knocked out that second turn from either a swing from the Gallade or another Rampardos. We also see Iono and Pokemon Communication in this style of deck. I think Iono and Pokemon Communication kind of just goes hand in hand with fossils. Again, you're really trying to build up or trying to find these skull fossils, and what better way to do that than to get a mulligan with your hand with Iono, and then to search out that next evolution with Pokemon Communication here. 1 Pokeball, so that way you can fit in, you know, a cape, you know, some good utility here. Let me know down in the comments, do you run 2 Pokeballs when it comes to fossils, or do you like this one and saving it up for something like a cape or anything else? Let me know down below. But that's this fighting deck that's really strong. We've played it this week. There's highlights on the channel for this deck especially as well, and it's really good into countering those bigger targets. And then up next, we kind of have this Magnezone Oricorio Shaman deck. This deck won the $10,000 tournament, so it definitely had a big showing out last week, the biggest pocket tournament we've ever seen. And now it's been like, hey, we're not going anywhere. This is us, and I believe this is another variation that's being run here. So where you have your room for your Shaman in here, that gives you like your Mars. It seems like these are like kind of like your go-tos, your stage 2 decks. Definitely need a Lily. You get the Mars, you see the Cyrus, you see the Guzma. If there's room for it, you throw in a Sabrina here. And then we have a Pikachu and a Alolan Raichu EX here, because again, you can power up your Alolan Raichu EX here as a means for Psychic to attack, because it gets 30 more damage for every energy that's attached to your opponent's Pokemon. Your Oricorio being able to safeguard, and again we're seeing the Cyrus, Sabrina, Guzma, and Mars opting out for a potion instead of the capes here, saying that like Oricorio will give us enough health against those EXs, so we don't have to worry about the caping here, and Magnezone and Alola Raichu with 140 each will still do enough damage and survive at least 1 hit from somebody else. So those are your 2 variations. Let me know below which one do you like better. I kind of like the healing, because it like lets you get away from Poison Barb, Rocky Helmets, burns before like you can Guzma and get yourself out of there. So I like that. It's giving an extra survivability, but this is more offensive, and like you really want to go on the attack here. So really just depending on your play style. So we'll continue, and we'll see that like we're getting this Arceus EX Crobat deck with the support of Darkrai and Giratina, and again 2 different versions here where you're seeing this one is running 2 Giratina EXs, so you're kind of like letting this be your flow of action, whereas like here you're really leaning on this Crobat and Arceus, just leaving room for another piece here. And I mean, really all depends here. Like, you get a Sabrina on this side of the deck here, you're focusing more so on a Cyrus here, and that's if folks are running away, because you're hitting them with Cunning Link, you're hitting them with Nightmare Aura, so you bring them back for that final KO. Leaf to help reset if in case you start off with an Arceus, because that is probably the last thing that you want to have up front. But the name of the game here is to build up your Crobat, get your Darkrai out there, get your Giratina. So you kind of want a Crobat, Darkrai, Giratina, and Arceus, like, just out on your field here, either Darkrai or probably Giratina up front. And then you're able to just build up this Darkrai while you're building up the Giratina, and then you're hitting them with the Cunning Link all at the same time. So you're losing 50 damage per turn while this is getting built up, and then you're attacking for 130 and hopefully taking out things from there. So that's just kind of what the case here is. Best case scenario being able to just chip away at your opponent while you're building up, because like these all need at minimum 3 energy to attack. And so again, whichever variation that you would like to play with, let me know which that you like better in the comments below. And then we continue off into this Garchomp EX and Rampardos, again, fighting. If you're running the fighting type and you're looking to secure faster wins, Rampardos plus something else is really a good way to go. And what's really nice about Garchomp EX is that either start, meaning that you're gonna always start with Gible because your other mon is a fossil, but being able to start off with Gible, Rare Candy into Garchomp EX, or you have your Rare Candy Skull Fossil into your Rampardos. So you're really loving this Rare Candy high rolly kind of effect, where you can do that first turn, you're attacking for 50 anywhere to the board, you're attacking for 130 on the other side. Lilith's here to bring back the damage that you lost with Rampardos, and we're running the Dragon Gible. If you're ever curious as to why that is, it's just to get an early turn away from weakness, right? Everything here is weak to grass, and as we saw, grass is one of the top decks that folks are playing, and so if you can get away with just taking 40 or just taking 30 or just taking 10, you're pretty good here without that additional plus 20, because you're gonna have to deal with that later on. And so we continue here. The Darkrai Tina decks with the one Kamala in here. That Kamala is really just best used for Oricorio. Other than that, folks are really just running your Darkrai and your Giratina. Most often or not, if there is no like electric energy on the other side, you're most likely not playing out the Kamala, making sure that you are having space for your Dark Tina to build up on both sides of the things here. And again, these four cards, or 5 Pokemon cards now, are just supported by tons and tons of trainer cards, and then you get some of your items, your Pokemon tools as well too. But you know, Professor's Research, Pokemon Center Leader, Sabrina, Mars, Red, Leaf, Cyrus, Guzma, there are some that are running which like feels very intense, but let me know if you like. I've seen this on ranked myself, but it's like 2 Mars and 2 red cards on top of like whatever else that they're trying to fit in here. So it's all interesting to see this play out, seeing kind of the best variations of this deck continue. This deck has been the #1 deck in the last meta and has still been very much alive in this meta as well. So I wonder, with these new sets of Ultra Beats and the rest of the 100 cards are to come out next week, what kind of new decks and new surprises and new abilities will we be able to see come from there. And then last but not least, we have a Charizard EX Turtonator deck. Turtonator seems to be the good go-to Firemon right now, especially being kind of if you're trying to do the 1/1/2 piece. You can always go all in on your Charizard EX or do your Charizard Incineroar, but this gives you the clean answer of what to do against Oricorio when you run into it, and you get that high roll chance of being able to go first. You have Kawhi in your hand, and that is a much better Misty, right? You're guaranteed to attack turn 2, and that's attacking their basic for 90 damage off rip. And if anything's living past that, they're not going to be able to attack you right away, right? If anything's living past 90 on that first turn, 9 or 10 out of 10 times, they need at least 2 energy to attack to survive that. So all in all, this Turtonator can be very, very fast with its supporter, and then obviously you have Charizard EX that can run really, really fast as well. This deck, however, tend to be a little bit more greedier, as we can see that they've cut a stage 1 for 2 red cards, and like not just one, you know, like I probably would just do a 1 and a Charmeleon if I had to include red card in here, but I definitely think the more mons I can hit other things, the better, and especially if your Turtonators up front, you don't mind having a stage 1 to evolve into your Charmander either, right? The rare candies are specifically meant for this, so why not have that better consistency? But yeah, let me know what y'all think, y'all. This is this finals week of the meta report for this season. Let me know what has been your favorite deck to play, your favorite deck to rank up. And as always, we're going to be keeping you all up to date. And so you can always catch us back here. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.